It's the Daytona 500. So much history here. Most important front row pole position of the entire season.
Today, it's all about sheer speed and how much finesse the driver can use to get that speed out of the car.
It comes down to hundredths, no, thousandths of a second.
I have no idea what's going to happen. We're getting ready to find out.
This is our year. Let's just do it.
Here's Chase Elliott of Dawsonville, Georgia. 45.
Wow, that's the fastest lap yet.
Youngest driver ever to start on the pole for the Daytona 500.
You can't make this stuff up, guys.
Here they come to the line. Minutes to the Daytona 500. Come on. Side by side, bouncing off. Denny Hamlin. Oh my goodness.
Closest 500 ever. We're getting ready to start this season. I just feel it. It's going to be one of the best ever.
And time now to set the front row for this year's Daytona 500. Fox Sports welcoming you live to Daytona International Speedway. A week from today, you'll see the 59th running of the Great American Race. The weather today, warm and wonderful in our Hollywood hotel. We're on the scene to bring you closer to it all with two-time Daytona 500 champ Michael Waltrip. I'm Chris Myers. 16 of the 17 drivers that raced earlier today, they're going to be busy again in a moment trying to qualify for the front row for the Great American Race, and that would include you in your 30th run at the Daytona 500. And got the fire suit on. What do you expect to see out there?
Well, you've got a combination here that's really interesting. It's brute horsepower and delicate finesse. The driver has to be perfect with his lines, holding it right against the bottom of the racetrack to make the distance around this place as short as possible. Remember, Chris, just a year ago, Chase Elliott won the pole by about half a tenth of a second. That's around a 2.5-mile track. That tells you how tight and how close things are.
And so far, the practice speed's 193 miles per hour. We'll probably see it around that range. We've had 14 different pole winners over the last 14 Daytona 500s. Well, first Saturday night, not a dry eye in the house here at Daytona. Rain caused postponement of the season opening clash, and that led to the clash running today. Kurt Busch wrecked by Jimmy Johnson during a caution. Brad Keselowski, who led 18 laps, fell behind when he was penalized for going through too many pit boxes. You're allowed 3, and he had 4. And then Jimmy Johnson wrecking again out of the clash this event for the 6th straight year.
That just tells you how difficult these cars are to drive and how much on the edge these drivers are. Jimmy Johnson's a 7-time champion, spins out twice off turn 4.
14 laps to go and heated up. Truex Jr. gets turned by Kyle Larson. They were running near the top 10. Denny Hamlin led 48 laps, the most in the race. On the final lap, this is the 10th time we've had this decided by a last lap pass. It was Keselowski and then Hamlin blocking him, and that opened the door for Joey Logano to pull into victory lane. First Ford win in this event since 2004. So has Ford taken the first step to say, hey, we're the ones to watch this weekend for the 500?
I think that's definitely the case. Remember, they have a new Camry, the 2018 Toyota Camry, so these drivers are seeing how it handles in traffic. It handles great, actually. Denny Hamlin stayed out on older tires. Both Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski pitted for tires. So now the crew chief's wheels are spinning. What do we do when it comes to a late race caution in the Daytona 500? Do we pit? Do we stay out? There's going to be so many storylines to follow next Sunday, but today it's all about the team and who's got the fastest car, who's prepared that thing meticulously to go out and be the fastest of the best.
And the clash run in the afternoon, closer to the time the Daytona 500 will be run, as the cars are lining up for front row qualifying. There's the 88 Dale Earnhardt Jr. back behind the wheel for the first time on this track after watching Alex Bowman run during the clash. Stay up to date with the drivers. NASCAR Race Hub on FS1 from Dale Jr. to Jimmy Johnson, NASCAR's biggest stars at Daytona Media Day. Then get inside the driver's seat, experience all of the sights and sounds from the clash with Radioactive. Our own Michael Waltrip reliving his greatest Daytona Day moments. It's all this week on Race Hub, weeknight 6 Eastern, and a special edition Wednesday morning at 9 Eastern on FS1. You'll hear from Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Media Day. As we get set for Daytona pole qualifying, more than ever, it feels like every sport has been adjusting its rules. NASCAR joining the movement. A good description of the changes starts with the handwriting that's on the wall.
2017 is a new era in NASCAR, where the world's best racing gets even better. While each race remains the same length, they'll now feature 3 stages. The length of each stage depends on the track, but one thing remains consistent all season. A stage win could be the difference between winning or losing a championship. Points will be awarded to each of the top finishers of the stage, and the stage winner wins an additional playoff bonus point. The more playoff points you accumulate, the higher you're seated in the playoffs. A stage flag will fly at the end of each stage, followed by a caution flag, setting up the next stage. Drivers will have the option to pit before the next stage, but enter at your own risk. For stage 2, the same rules apply, and the goal remains the same. Finish first. When the checkered flag flies at the end of the final stage, the race is over. Points will be awarded to all race vehicles. And to the winner goes the biggest prize, a spot in the playoffs and 5 additional playoff bonus points. Bottom line, the most exciting racing in the entire world just got even more thrilling. Buckle up.
Don't know if we can illustrate that any better. All right, so the Daytona 500, it's the Super Bowl of stock car racing, right? It's its own animal, so we'll see how that applies here. But in the bigger picture, drivers seem to like this, and fans will like it. What do you think about this works well?
I think the winner are fans, because the drivers are going to be able to mix it up. They love the attitude of the crew chiefs and the way they're able to pull things out of the hat. Maybe do something the others aren't doing. Give yourself a chance to win a stage, gain some points, but more importantly, mix the grid up, mix the field up, so that when you go for the checkered flag for the big prize at the end of the race, maybe it gives you a better shot to win. If I'm at home watching on TV, I can't wait to see how these teams play out trying to win each stage of the race.
And it does have an impact on the points, and it means you'll get some better racing early. At least that's the intention, the goal for all of that. And let's talk about you as you head out the door. Good luck on this, all right?
Grab me 3 gears and hug the yellow line, and hope a thing will go fast.
All right, and a 2-time Daytona 500 winner in the 15 car. There it is, waiting for you to hop in. 42 drivers for 40 spots, front row on the line at Daytona. Daytona Pole Day, and we welcome you back live as you see shots of the car in the inspection area. Drivers and teams, you know, they always test how much they can stretch the rules, but with modern technology, it's harder than ever to kind of slip one over on anybody. Our Larry McReynolds, a Daytona 500 winning crew chief. And Larry, based on your laser-like focus with this new inspection process, has NASCAR raised its game a little to prevent some others from trying and gaming the rules?
Chris, inspection has been interesting for the last 3 days here. This is the biggest race of the year. It's the team's job to push the envelope as much as they can. It's NASCAR's job to make sure they don't step across the line. At 9 a.m. Eastern time this morning, the inspection station opened for all the teams attempting to run this qualifying session. In a little over 4 hours, all 42 teams had been through, but as of just a few minutes ago, we still had a dozen teams that had not made it through. The organization that has suffered the most is Furniture Row, the 77 of rookie Eric Jones, the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. But NASCAR did tell me once they get qualifying going, when your spot comes up, you are on the 5-minute clock. That's all you have to row for qualifying.
Better make sure everything keeps a close watch. More scrutinized probably in this race, Larry, than any other one to start things, just to set the tone for NASCAR. Thank you very much. Look forward to your comments through pole qualifying. When we continue live here from Daytona, Joey Logano, 2015 Daytona 500 winner. He won today already in the Clash. 14 wins in the last 3 years. We're going to talk to him in a moment. Weather outstanding, warm, clear skies here at Daytona International Speedway. Glad you're watching Fox NASCAR live here in the Sunshine State. NASCAR cranking it up in 2017. Front row qualifying for the 59th running of the Great American Race coming up. But the guy who won the Clash earlier, former Daytona 500 winner, Joey Logano, is standing by with our Vince Welch.
Well, thanks, Chris. Joey Logano 2 years ago won the Daytona 500. 2 hours ago, he won the Clash. But one thing that his owner, Roger Penske, doesn't have in that vast trophy case of his, a pole award from the Daytona 500. Can you get it for him today?
I think so. In all honesty, of the 8 years I've been running Cup, I've never come even close to a pole at a super speedway, and I feel like the Shell Pennzoil Ford is the closest we've ever had it. So we'll have to wait and see. You know, we were really fast in practice yesterday, but you never know how everyone's doing, you know, how much they're actually showing and how much everyone's holding back. I don't really know. I've never really been in this territory before, so kind of a new area, but hey, it's good. We've already made great gains in where we've been in the past with single car runs, and we'll see where it ends up here in qualifying.
What would it mean to give Roger the Daytona 500 pole, something he doesn't have?
Anytime you can win something for Roger Penske that he hasn't won in motorsports yet, that's a special moment. We talk about the Brickyard 400 all the time because it's a race he hasn't won, but when you talk about a pole here at Daytona 500, it's up there as the same thing, and we have a great shot at it today, so we'll give it our best effort.
We'll see how it plays out. Joey Logano was fastest in practice. Will it translate to qualifying, Chris?
Thanks, gentlemen. Last time the Clash winner won the Daytona 500 pole the same season, it was Dale Jarrett in 2000. So who will be the centerpiece driver for the start of next Sunday's Daytona 500? That's coming up. Good look at Daytona International Speedway. The last driver to win the pole and the Daytona 500 in the same year, Dale Jarrett, back in 2000. Let's see who's going to sit on the pole for this one coming up a week from Sunday. Welcome in the guys calling qualifying. They'll be calling the race next Sunday as well. Jeff Gordon, Darrell Waltrip, and Mike Joy. Mike?
Thank you, Chris. The number I'm fixated on is 14. That's how many consecutive years the Daytona 500 has had a different pole sitter. And I think there's a good chance at 15 because one name that is not on that list of 14 is Joey Logano. And of all the laps turned in practice, his first lap, fastest first lap of any run any driver took in practice was Logano's. He's already got one checkered flag for today. I won't say he's my pick, but he'd be a favorite.
Yeah, well, that's what you try to do as a team. You want to go through the room of doom and get the car on the line and at least run what you did in practice, your best lap, hopefully improve on that just a little wee bit. That's the challenge that you have as you roll out on the line today.
Well, we know the pole in the front row doesn't guarantee a victory in the Daytona 500, but this does pay off all the hundreds and hundreds of hours of all the teams that have worked so hard to get here to show just how fast that car is for one lap.
So we are about to find out who wins the front row for the 500 and which two of the 6 open cars are guaranteed spots in the 500. I'm banking on a 15th consecutive different pole winner, Chris.
All right, thanks very much. The pole sitter, by the way, for the 500 outside the top 5 of the last 15 Daytona 500s. Thanks for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. NASCAR on Fox. The weather in the 70s, sunny here in Daytona. Translation, it's great out there. And Joey Logano will be the last guy to qualify or at least try to win the pole for the Daytona 500 after finishing first earlier today in the Clash. So let's head back up to Jeff Gordon, Darrell Waltrip, and Mike Joy.
Thanks, Chris. The track is open for the first of 2 rounds of qualifying. And the cars will proceed in the inverse order of their practice speeds. Jeffrey Earnhardt will be out there first. He'll make the first run. And Joey Logano will be last. At the end of the first round, we'll take a 10-minute break. The fastest 12 cars in round 1 will then compete for the pole. Earnhardt attempting his first start in what is now the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series at Daytona. First Daytona start. He did run 22 races last year with the best finish of 26th. Circle Sport Racing, Pat Trice, the crew chief.
Yeah, Mike, just a point of reference here. Last year's pole, 45.845 seconds, 196.314 miles per hour by Chase Elliott. I don't know, Jeff. Think we'll get anywhere near that today?
Well, it's interesting, DW, because yesterday the wind was blowing down the back straightaway as a tailwind, and we seem to think that that gives these teams a little more speed because it helps them get up to speed a little bit faster. But today seems to be blowing the opposite way, so I don't know if that's going to be conducive to those types of speeds that we saw last year. Not to mention we got a little bit smaller restrictor plate on the cars this year.
Now we'll lock in the front row for the 500 today. Everyone else their starting spot will depend on their finish in the 150-mile dual races on Thursday that you'll see live on FS1. There are 36 teams guaranteed into the race because they have the NASCAR team charters, and there are 6 teams that we call open teams that have to earn their way into the 500 either by being the fastest 2 of those 6 teams today or by racing their way in on Thursday. Jeffrey Earnhardt, 48.71 is the first time up. Here is Port Tobacco, Maryland's Timmy Hill. He'll be the second driver on the clock. for Rick Ware Racing. Carlos Contreras, the crew chief, and Timmy's attempting to make his first Daytona Cup start. He finished 34th last year at Dover.
Yeah, I was just going to say Jeffrey Earnhardt picked up a couple of tenths there from his practice speed yesterday, 48.93, so he picked up a tad, which is what you kind of want to do if it's possible.
And we spoke yesterday in practice as these cars were preparing for this qualifying session today, just how close, hundreds of seconds between the top 10, 13 positions. Well, it's a tight battle among these cars that are trying to qualify their way just into making the Daytona 500 as well.
And Timmy Hill is one of those 6 open cars hopeful of a Daytona 500 starting berth. And all of those 6 will run within the first 11 cars in the order, 48-88 for Timmy Hill.
And just like Jeffrey Earnhardt picked up speed, Timmy Hill did not. So that actually flip-flopped them from practice, who could make this interesting.
Down the front stretch, 8,100 RPM for Timmy Hill. We'd been seeing 8,300 yesterday from a number of cars. Here is Corey LaJoie, third-generation driver, who is also one of those 6 open teams. His grandfather, Don LaJoie, the kingpin at the Danbury, Connecticut Race Arena. His father, Randy, a champion of NASCAR's Busch Series, now the Xfinity Series. So here's Corey driving for BK Racing. Doug Rickert, the crew chief, one of the 7 drivers trying to make their first Daytona 500.
Did you say Doug Rickert? Oh boy, there's a name that goes back a long way.
Yeah, at the age of I think 19, he crew chiefed Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Dale Earnhardt to his first Cup championship.
19.
Kid from California.
Experience means a lot here. Daytona doesn't
really does. He was Michael's crew chief last year, I think, also when he drove one of the BK cars.
Quickest so far, Corey LaJoie, 48.58. Now, of the 6 open teams, 2 of them know they will race into the 500 by those qualifying times, if not earn a better position on Thursday. And the 2 slowest of the 6 open teams will know that their only chance to make the race will be to race in on Thursday. This is Canadian DJ Kennington attempting his first Daytona Cup start. Gaunt Brothers Racing, this is the Marty Gaunt Triad power plant underneath the hood of this Toyota. He's trying to make his first Daytona Cup race. He has 3 Xfinity races at Daytona with the best finish of 17th.
Yeah, a couple of guys were telling me they thought this car was pretty much a shoe-in to make it. It's good body on this car, and it's got a real good engine under the hood and should have pretty decent speed.
In practice yesterday, he ran a couple of tenths faster than what we saw to LaJoie and Timmy Hill and Earnhardt. So curious to see if he backs that up. A little wide off of turn 4
got up off
there.
of turn 4. Well, that cost him a little time.
And he's quickest, 48.17 for DJ Kennington.
A little quicker than his best lap yesterday.
Reed Sorensen, Joey Gase, and Michael Waltrip coming up. Reed Sorensen from Georgia, veteran of 6 Daytona 500s in the Premium Motorsports Camry, is the fastest of the open cars, 48.043, 187.3 miles per hour. And Joey Gase, third fastest at 48.42, driving for BK Racing. He'll be in his first Daytona 500.
And here comes Mikey off turn 4, looking for the checkered flag, and he's looking like he might have a pretty nice lap going here, guys.
Completing his final qualifying effort for the Daytona 500.
And a deep sigh of relief.
Bam.
Fastest so far, 47.59 for Waltrip.
Oh, yeah, that's a great pickup. 67 yesterday.
189.08 miles per hour. Michael will be in his 30th 500 next Sunday. Vince Welch.
A lot of drivers hoping to score their first ever Daytona 500 pole. Some, in fact, their first pole ever. Austin Dillett did it in just his 14th race. What did it mean for you at such a young age and stage in your career to win the Daytona 500 pole?
Well, it definitely eliminated a lot of pressure going into our first season, and it was huge for Dow. And I think looking back, it's going to be something I can always tell my kids about. It's very special. And now I just want to go out there and have a solid run compared to where we were yesterday in the practice. We weren't where we wanted to be. Had a good draft today in the Clash, so that was fun. Hope this car can back up kind of what we were able to do today with the Clash car.
Mike. Watching Cole Witt from Alpine, California for TriStar Motorsports. Frankie Kerr, the crew chief. And you'll see he's tracking toward second fastest behind Michael Waltrip right now. No, goes right to the top. by a difference of 7/1000ths of a second, 47.59 for Cole Witt. He'll be in his 3rd Daytona 500.
Pretty good looking car, 72. What does that remind you of?
Benny Parsons?
Benny Parsons.
Yeah. Now, this is Tommy Baldwin's number 7 car. He was one of the chartered teams last year, but he sold his charter. So the 7 is an open car, and veteran Elliott Sadler is going to try to make the Daytona 500. For Baldwin, it will be his 14th start. He was the runner-up in 2002.
Every time I see that Kids Eats Free, I think about Dave Blaney, because this car, you know, this car, when I think the race at Montoya hit the jet dryer over there, Blaney was sitting over in this car in the lead at that time.
At the red flag.
Tracking right in there with Sorensen. It's going to be close whether he can get ahead of him and pretty much lock himself into the Daytona 500.
Now he'll run the entire Xfinity Series. Sadler will this year, while Tommy Baldwin's going to run some modified races and do a bunch of different things this year. 3rd overall for Sadler, but he is fastest of the open cars, so he'll be in the Daytona 500. Eleven drivers have now made their runs in round 1. This is Brendan Gaughan trying to make his 2nd 500. He is the last of those open cars to qualify, and he's the quickest of them, so he will be in the Daytona 500 along with Elliott Sadler. David Reagan from Georgia for Front Row Motorsports trying to make his 11th 500. He is fastest overall, 47.518 seconds. And Matt DiBenedetto for Go Fast Racing is now quickest, 47.355. He'll be in his 2nd Daytona 500. Gene Need, the crew chief. And because we're qualifying in the inverse order of practice speeds, we would expect that every car that goes on the track has the potential to be faster than all the cars that have run before it.
Most everybody's been so far around a 10th quicker. So a couple cars in there, a couple of tenths, but most everybody about 1/10 over what they practiced.
DiBenedetto is the first car to break into the 190s average speed, so should start seeing that continue to creep up.
This is Landon Castle from Iowa. Donnie Wingo's his crew chief at Front Row Motorsports. He's been in 4 Daytona 500s. Started 3rd here in the July race in 2014.
And who was Trevor Bain's crew chief when he won the Daytona 500?
That would be the aforementioned
Donnie Wingo.
Donnie Wingo. Right. Top of the chart, 47.28. That's 7/100ths faster than Matt DiBenedetto. 190.3 is the speed.
Just a little bit quicker than yesterday. Best lap, 47.93 yesterday.
Michael McDowell from Arizona. Levine Family Racing now with Chevrolets, and Todd Parrott, the crew chief. This will be McDowell's 6 Daytona 500s. Todd Parrott has 3 Daytona poles and 3 Daytona victories to his credit.
I was going to say, we talked about having experience down here at Daytona. Todd definitely has had some great finishes and some great race cars down here.
Listen, there are some amazing crew chiefs in that garage area. There's guys in there working on cars that have won the Daytona 500. There's guys in there working on these cars that we don't talk about a whole lot that have won championships.
McDowell comes to the stripe, and he is 3rd, 47.43, 189.7. So what is at stake for these drivers, other than the 2 fastest qualifiers, is where they will line up in the Thursday dual races that will set the field for the 500. As Austin Dillon, a former 500 pole sitter, rolls onto the track, here's Vince.
Well, we just finished our official post-qualifying selfie, Michael and I. Your last Daytona 500, special to commemorate it in that way, I know, but how about the qualifying run in general?
Well, I tell you, Vince, if you told me I was the fastest, it wouldn't have felt any different. The old Aaron's Toyota was sucked down on the road, felt good, just doesn't have a whole lot of speed. There's two types of people you'll talk to today, the ones that are up front and the ones that say qualifying don't matter. And we're going to go for the latter and think that maybe we can draft our way up in the middle of the mix. But I'm just really thankful for the opportunity to race again at Daytona. And looking forward to Thursday with you on FS1 talking about the trucks. And if you don't have a ticket to the Daytona 500, you better get one, because the clash today was epic. And the 500 is going to be even better. So come on out and watch us.
Yeah, always the unique perspective. Thanks, Mike.
When Michael won the 500 in 2003, Slugger Labby was his crew chief. Labby's now the crew chief for Austin Dillon, who won the pole here in 2014.
Yeah, Austin Dillon has the best average finish on the restrictor plate races from last year. He and Slugger, once they got together, I think they really made a nice combination here, getting stuff done. The car was competitive, won a pole or two, you know, and really turned the corner a little bit with this team.
Dillon driving for his grandfather, Richard Childress, in historic #3. He'll be in his 5th Daytona 500.
What you'll start seeing as we get into the faster cars, you'll start seeing the platform of that car and how it's just sealed with the front splitter to the racetrack. And they get into the corners, you might even start seeing some sparks coming out the back because they've got the back down so well.
Top of the chart, besting Landon Castle by 14 or 16 100ths, 47-12 for Austin Dillon. Chris Buescher, the 2015 Xfinity Series champion, did not become the quickest in his group. He was 5th when he ran, now 6th. 47.51 for JTG Doherty Racing. And Danica Patrick, the 2013 pole sitter, is quickest, 47.04, picks it up by 8 100ths of a second over Austin Dillon. Here comes Jamie McMurray from Joplin, Missouri, 14 Daytona 500s, the 2010 winner for Chip Ganassi Racing, crew chief Matt McCall, and he is faster than Patrick by 2 100ths. McMurray quickest now.
Yeah, yesterday he ran a 46.92, so he slowed down just a teeny bit. Danica ran within a few hundreds of what she ran yesterday on her best lap.
Martin Truex Jr. is on the racetrack for Furniture Row Racing, but what of his teammate, whose car not yet out on the qualifying line?
Mike, we've documented since Friday the challenges that Furniture Road Racing has had, both with their Clash and 500 cars, getting them through inspection. Eric Jones's 77 car just pushed through the LIS. He's been green lighted. They had several issues with the grid and the LIS this afternoon trying to get this 77 car through. Right now the final touches going on, checking the pressures. Michigander Eric Jones, he's off to the side with Chad Little, NASCAR official. He's waiting to get the green light that he can go ahead and climb in this 77 car. About 9 to 10 cars away, and the biggest sigh of relief really was for team president Joe Garone, as both cars finally are cleared.
Martin Truex Jr., his teammate and runner-up in last year's 500, goes to the top, 46.82, and that is a big 0.2 of a second faster than Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, you know, this team sat on the pole at Talladega last October, so no big surprise other than all the trouble that they've had since they've been down here.
That's a 10th quicker than he ran yesterday, by the way.
Jamie?
Well, Ryan Blaney waiting and watching. We were just talking about how so many drivers say there's not much we can do in qualifying here. It's all about the car. But there is a place that you really focus on. Where is that?
You know, with a lot of it is the car. A lot of it is, you know, these teams work so hard in the off season to get our cars as fast as possible, whether it's bodies or motors. So really the only things as drivers we can do is, one, hold a smooth wheel, but also getting off pit road is really important to not stall it or bog it down, because it's hard to get these cars up to max speed in just one lap. So that's really the only job that we have that we hopefully don't mess up. And we worked hard on that yesterday to try to kind of maximize your pit road exit speed. But it's nice. I think we have a really fast car. It's just nice to be back at the racetrack again. But I think all the Fords are fast. I know Roush Yates have brought a great engine program to Daytona, and it's just nice to be back with everybody at Motorcraft and Quick Lane. So we stack up today. I'm pretty pumped.
I like the look of the old school throwback fire suit too.
Absolutely. Ty Dillon, that's Austin's younger brother, but he's not racing for Richard Childress Racing. He's with Germain Racing. Booty Barker is his crew chief. Ty Dillon to make his 3rd Daytona 500 start, and he's 2nd fastest right now, 46.86.
It's not an RCR team, but it does have an alliance with them. But I'm kind of surprised that they've. That's a great job by Booty and Ty and that team to actually outrun Austin Dillon in the RCR Chevrolet.
Yeah, that 13 car last year had some good runs at times. What they need to work on is getting more consistent, getting good runs every week, and maybe with Ty in the car and Booty, they can get something going.
Chase Elliott, 2nd-generation driver. He was the pole sitter for the 500 here last year, and he returns for Hendrick Motorsports to the seat of this number 24 Chevrolet with Alan Gustafson as his crew chief.
Yeah, really curious to see what kind of speed they show in this number 24 Napa Chevrolet, because they were on the 2 poles last year here at Daytona as well as in Talladega. Showed a lot of speed qualifying, but didn't show a lot of it yesterday in practice.
They finished 7th in the clash earlier today, and we were laughing when it was over with. I don't know if we ever mentioned him being in the race today, because we didn't talk about him very much.
8,400 down the backstretch into turn number 3.
Well, with that little bit of headwind, yesterday we were seeing 84, 85. So I think that little headwind's knocking a little bit of speed out. And you can see a few sparks coming off that skirt off the right side. It's not totally unusual.
No, I think that means
she's getting
happy
down
with how they've got it down.
Yeah.
Top of the board, 46.80. He pips Martin Truex by 0.02 of a second, 192.3. Jamie?
Daniel Suarez, the rookie here, trying to qualify here for the first time in the Daytona 500, but you had a good clash race, your first Cup race. What's on your mind now as you focus to trying to get the pole here?
Well, definitely, I feel like today has been super helpful for me. I feel like in the clash race, I went to a school and I learned a lot from all these guys, and it's a lot of information, very good information for next week. And now it's everything about my team. They have done a really good job in the last couple of days finding a speed of this 19 Aris Toyota Camry, and so far very proud of them. I feel like we can have a shot for the top 5, and we'll see.
Top 5 for a rookie. We'll wait and see momentarily.
Well, I hope Daniel Suarez has his book bag and he's ready to go to school a lot this year, because, I mean, we saw he's a very quick learner in the Xfinity Series, but he's going to be learning a lot out there this year.
But what I really liked about him, since I've been watching him practice everything, he's very calm. Just like that interview, very calm.
A.J. Allmendinger returns to JTG Doherty Racing. Now a 2-car team. Randall Burnett, the crew chief, for his 8th Daytona 500. But he is 8th quickest right now, 47.29. Bit of a drop off there. California's Kevin Harvick is back with Rodney Childers and Stuart Haas Racing in the number 4. It was a Chevrolet last year, but as all the SHR cars now are Ford Fusions, as the 2-time Daytona winner embarks on his 16th 500.
Every manufacturer, every engine has a little different tune to it. This is a little bit deeper sound than maybe one of the Chevrolets had, maybe one of the Toyotas has. It's just a little bit different sound. Not much, but to a driver, those sounds are important. He learns the sound of that engine and when he knows it's performing.
And we heard him over the radio. When he had 4 tires in the Clash, he liked the speed that this car had, or the one he had in the Clash.
I think that wind has picked up down the backstretch. Looking at the flags, it's quite a headwind. And Harvick, 46.86. is 3rd fastest. Vince.
Brendan Gaughan and Elliott Sadler have locked themselves in on time. And Brendan, I know you've run the Daytona 500 before, but your owner has not. And I think that he's shed a lot of tears today. This is a pretty happy day for you guys.
Haven't seen him yet. I think he's still somewhere on the ground between here and there. You know, really thank to Mark Beard and the Beard Motorsports, Beard Oil guys. He's never made a Cup race, and we got him in his first Cup show at the Daytona 500. It's only my second one. I've run for Roger Penske and Mark Beard in the Daytona 500, so we're all pretty happy around here right now. Thank you to ECR, Richard Childers, for giving me that motor and all the little bit of help he gave that team, because we've run 3 laps. That's it. We did 2 laps yesterday and 1 lap today, and we're in the Daytona 500.
What a great story.
Well done. Eric Jones' car has cleared inspection. It's coming to the line now. That means everybody is out of inspection, as Kyle Busch for Adam Stevens and Joe Gibbs Racing tries to win his 2nd Daytona pole, his first for the 500. He has a pole and a win here. Both came in the July race. This will be Kyle's 12th 500. 3rd quick, 46.85. Larry McReynolds.
Yeah, we've been talking about the inspection issues that teams been having here at Daytona, and a lot has to do with the body itself, the templates that go across the body like that. But there is a lot of areas that teams can work in. With our Ford cutaway car, we're going to look at the underside, and you see all these things hanging down, the bell housing, the tailpipes, the rear end, the fuel cell, the back of the rear bumper. So what we're going to show you, we have this new thing called Ford Fox Aero Tracks. Is this the airflow under the car? You can see up here at the splitter. This is the high pressure area. But as it goes underneath the car and all those different things disturb the air, then it becomes much more of a low pressure. So Jeff, the more you can clean that up, the better the car will perform.
Yeah, we see how the splitter is sealed down to the racetrack, but there is a gap and there is air flowing underneath these cars. And one of the things I've heard a lot of the teams working on is in order to get the drag out of the body of the race car, to keep some downforce in the car for race conditions, they're really focused on what's going on underneath that car. And any time that they can get the air to flow better, it's not only helping drag, but also helping the car suck down to the racetrack.
Wisconsin's Paul Menard finishes up his run. He's back with Richard Childress Racing. Matt Borland is the crew chief this year for the former Brickyard winner, and Menard is 6th fastest, 46.98. So the last 3 drivers, none of whom have been able to eclipse Chase Elliott's speed of 46.80 for last year's pole sitter. Here's Denny Hamlin. For Mike Wheeler and Joe Gibbs Racing, this will be his 12th Daytona 500. He is the defending champion of the great race.
Yeah, so far we've seen the magic of Alan Gustafson and those guys of that 24 Hendrick Motorsports bunch stepping it up here in qualifying. So now it's been put to the task for the rest of these teams to see if they can step it up from yesterday's times as well.
Most everybody's been right at what they ran yesterday. A few have picked up a little bit, and a few have lost a little bit, but pretty much sticking right to what they ran yesterday.
And Elliott remains on top, 46.84. For Denny Hamlin, who started 11th or better in all the restrictor plate races last year. It all leads up to next Sunday, when America's Best return to the track for the Great American Race. The 59th Daytona 500 begins next Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Mike, look at those times. 46.08. Or 80, I'm sorry, 46.82, 46.84, 46.85, 46.86, 86. The first 6 cars just blanket over each one of them, over all of them.
This is the most competitive qualifying session. We saw this in practice, and now we're seeing it again here in qualifying that I've ever seen down here in Daytona.
Hundreds, just a few hundreds is making the difference right now.
That could be just a tiny gust of wind on the back straightaway.
And there in turns 1 and 2, we heard a bit of skirt scuffing from Jimmy Johnson. 7-time champion, going to start his 16th 500. There you hear it again.
Yeah, it's just that little click. That means that really is a good thing, because that means the car's getting down in the racetrack like the team would want it to.
Tracking like he might be on the pole here for the time being.
It's going to be close.
No, 7th, 46.90.
Well, what's wrong with that tracker?
I'll be honest, the way his day went in the clash, it's kind of pulling for him there.
Yeah,
you know,
kidding.
because gosh, that was a rough start to the day.
I think our tracker, just like we are, it's so tight. The times are so close that the tracker's having trouble picking it up.
Johnson brought out 2 caution flags in the clash and did not finish that race for the 6th straight year. Matt Kenseth from Wisconsin, back with Jason Ratcliffe and Joe Gibbs Racing in the Toyota. 2-time winner of the 500. 14 top 10s in his 17 starts in this race. Right now, the quickest Gibbs Toyota is Denny Hamlin in 3rd, followed by Kyle Busch in 4th. In the 46.84-85 range. Chase Elliott quickest at 46.80, and that holds up. Kenseth 46.84 with a 0. Hamlin was 46.84 with a 5.
You know, DW and I were talking about, Kenseth would like to have another shot at that final corner and final lap of the Daytona 500 last year. He certainly has a fast race car to be able to maybe give him that shot this year.
Don't you hate to look back on races and say, I should have done this, or should have done it, or I wish I'd have done this, or wish I'd have done that? That drives you crazy.
Especially when it's the Daytona 500 at stake.
You're a few hundred yards from the finish line.
Ryan Newman with Luke Lambert and Richard Childress Racing, the 2008 Daytona 500 winner. We called him the Rocket Man back when he was winning a pole on an average of 1 every 4 starts earlier in his career. This will be his 16th Daytona 500. Sixth fastest for Newman, 46.859. Vince Welch.
They're all chasing Chase Elliott, last year's pole winner. Did you get everything out of that first run, or do you have something left for round 2?
I hope we have something left. I really didn't think my lap was all that good. I mean, obviously it's really hard to tell a whole lot about your lap, but just a few of the things that you can tell from as far as just speed, just the overall feel wasn't really what I was hoping for. So it surprised me. I didn't expect to go that fast. So that's a good thing, and hopefully we can just address a couple of the small things that I noticed. Really the only things you kind of can notice or mess with here. So we'll try to make it better and go from there.
Thanks. Matt?
Vince, Eric Jones has the Furniture Row Toyota out on the racetrack for his qualifying attempt. And Joe Garona, your team president, now the cars are past inspection. The agenda now turns toward figuring out why your cars are off, especially in the grid area. You built a brand new grid in the offseason for the 2018 Toyota. Do you feel like that's where your issue may be?
Yeah, I think so, and it's a lot of things. You know, there's a lot of teams here that are having problems with the overall grid, and when you come here, you have your grid in the shop, and then NASCAR has theirs. It's not uncommon to be off a little bit. In our particular case, we're off way too much, and it's not in a favorable amount for us to make speed. And NASCAR has been really good about letting us get it right. And the bottom line is you have to fit the templates, and we're already planning on going back to Denver the first of the week here and tomorrow and work on our grids, because we have another race coming and we got to get this straightened out.
Do you take it to NASCAR R&D and see how yours compares?
You know, that's something that you could do for sure, but we need to get in our shop and find out where the mistake is, where it's wrong, and often it'll make it a lot easier at the racetrack. The guys won't have to work quite as hard. They've been working hard.
Mike?
We saw Eric Jones make his run. The rookie is 10th fastest in his Furniture Row Toyota with crew chief Chris Gale. And here is Kurt Busch with Tony Gibson and Stuart Haas Racing for his 16th 500. And that is off pace for being one of the final 15 drivers to run. He is 12th fastest right now. Won't make the final round of 12. 47.01.
46.86 he ran yesterday. So something didn't go right for that car.
So that assures Chase Elliott, who is fastest so far, of making it to the final round of 12 that will run for the pole.
Quite a bit you can hear the skirts dragging quite a bit on Dale's car.
Yeah, well, I think we noticed that a little bit in practice yesterday as well. He was hitting pretty good yesterday. Yeah. I think they may have even raised it up a little bit from there, but
it's tracking pretty good.
Curious to see how our buddy from the booth earlier today does today.
See if he learned anything.
Yeah.
Two-time
He gave me
Daytona
pointers,
500
right?
winner.
I gave him a few pointers. He picked up a few things.
One pole for Dale Earnhardt Jr. with crew chief Greg Ives, Hedrick Motorsports Chevrolet, making his first Cup Series start since Kentucky last July. Second, 46.81.
Good job. Yeah, get you some of that, boys.
And that will put Junior in the final round. Anybody surprised that 10 drivers now who practice faster than Chase Elliott have been unable to knock him off the top spot?
Well, that's why I was talking about going through the room of doom. You got to get everything, you get out there and practice, and you may have things off just a teeny bit, and because the times are so close, you might be able to put up a fast lap. But when you go through the room of doom and everybody's the same, that's when when they turn Big Ben on today, that's when you know where you stand.
Well, what's new at Stuart Haas Racing, besides the switch to Ford, is Clint Boyer stepping into the seat of the now retired Tony Stewart. Mike Bugaravich, the crew chief for Stuart Haas Racing. 22 Daytona starts for Boyer. He's been 4th here 3 times. This will be his 12th 500.
Boyer is elated. I'm just telling you, he's on cloud 9. He's got a competitive race car. He's got a great race team. Him and Bugger Ravage, they remind me. I think they're going to work well together. I look for some big things out of this 14
And he's
car.
really good in the draft.
Ooh.
You give him a good race car here at Daytona, and he can be a major factor.
I agree.
Boyer is 6th fastest, 46.85. That knocks Paul Menard out of the top dozen. Eric Jones goes to the bubble. Jamie.
Well, the 78 car for Martin Truex Jr., basically your guys had to rebuild a lot of this car overnight. How did it respond out there, and were you surprised by the speed it has in it?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, we didn't have any idea what it would run, so I think we're very, very pleased with that. I'm just really proud of all these guys on this team. They work so hard. They've really put in a lot of effort this week just to try to get here to be able to qualify. So really proud of them, everybody on the Bass Pro Toyota and everybody at Furniture Row Racing. So we got a lot to work on in the next few days, getting ready for the 500. But definitely proud of these guys and proud of their efforts the last few days.
Mike.
Happy birthday, Trevor Bayne. He turned 26 today. Matt Pucci is his crew chief at Roush Fenway Racing, now a 2-car team. He's the 2011 Daytona 500 winner. Going to make the top 12. Just 46.94. He knocks out Eric Jones from round 2 contention. So Chase Elliott fastest, Trevor Bayne next, Ricky Stenhouse, Casey Kane coming up. Well, it's been a battle of teammates. Ricky Stenhouse from Mississippi with Brian Patty knocked out his Roush Fenway teammate from the top 12, Trevor Bayne, with his run. Then Casey Kane went on the track with Keith Rodden and Hendrick Motorsports and knocked out
Jimmy Johnson,
his teammate Jimmy Johnson, who had been 12th. So Stenhouse is now on the bubble in 12th as far as advancing to round 2. And the rookie, the Xfinity Series champion, who is fluent in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. That's Daniel Suarez from Monterrey, Mexico for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Can you imagine if we had back-to-back rookies on the pole at the Daytona 500?
What a story that would be. 14 years since we've had a repeat pole sitter. And Suarez is not going to make the top dozen. He is 14th with a 46.905. Vince?
Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in the booth during the broadcast of the Clash, and for a broadcaster, you hold a pretty nice wheel. Second quickest in this first round. How was it?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I didn't think it was going to run that good. So I thought, there's some fast forwards that are still to go. But that's a pretty good lap for us. So, I think it might get us in the top 12 so we can go another round. And I had a lot of fun today up in the booth. I hope the fans enjoyed that. I thought the race was great. And glad to be in the car. And we'll see how we end up here.
Glad to have you back.
Well, he's definitely in the top dozen. As here's Ryan Blaney for the Wood brothers. Jeremy Bullins, the crew chief. It'll be Blaney's 3rd Daytona 500. And this is one of those fast forwards that Junior was just talking about.
Yeah, we got a group of them coming up. We got Kyle Larson in a fast Chevy, and then we got the 3 Fords at the end here.
But Blaney is 15th at a 46.93, and that misses the cut by at least half a tenth.
Yeah, the last 2 cars, Suarez and Blaney both have slowed down about 3/10 over what they practiced at yesterday. I don't know if the winds picked up.
Well,
conditions have changed a little bit.
It's interesting you say that. I've noticed the flags change a little bit of direction, and then we're getting gusts here and there, which tends to happen here in Daytona in the afternoon. So could be having an effect on some of these teams.
I'm just surprised those 2 cars, they slowed down about the same amount, about 3/10, both of them. The last 2 cars have gone.
So there are 4 cars to go, which means everyone in the top 8 down through Ryan Newman is locked into round 2. And those in question would be Kane, Harvick, Dillon, and Stenhouse. Here's Kyle Larson from California for Chad Johnston and Chip Ganassi Racing.
Fast car yesterday, 46.62 he ran. He was the 4th quickest car yesterday.
This will be his 4th Daytona 500.
Those lap times I'm giving you are the lap times that was their fastest first lap that they ran yesterday. So those are times that when they went on the track the first lap, time
look
by.
at this thing sparking through 1 and 2. They really got that thing dragging.
Yeah, that might be a little too much.
And you look at him dropping on the ticker.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. I'll say it again. When the car hits, when it sparks like that, there's something pretty major dragging, and that's just like slamming the brakes on. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, there's a fine line because you want to get that spoiler and the drag off the car by getting it down as much as possible. But if you're then hitting the racetrack too hard, now you're causing friction, and that's slowing the car down.
Yeah, because those are huge sparks, so those big sparks are dragging somewhere.
Yeah. Kyle Larson will not make it to round 2. Nope. He is 15th out of 46.92, and that will lock in Casey Kane into the second round.
Another 3/10. The last 3 cars that have gone have all dropped off 3/10. And we're coming to the last couple of 3 cars here. We'll see what they can do. We know how fast they were yesterday.
Brad Keselowski from Michigan, past series champion with a win at Daytona in July, has 4 Daytona top 10s, but only 1 in the last 5 spring races.
Wow, he's kind of dropping on our tracker though, a little bit.
Think about this too, guys. These cars have been out on the line the longest of any of the cars. So every part on that car, other than what they were able to heat up a little bit with their generators, but these cars don't have any heat in them whatsoever.
And I'm really curious to see what happens in this next round of those cars that have gone, how much they pick up because they have the temperature that's in the oils and in the bearings and all those things.
Yep, I think they will pick up for sure.
He's
wow,
coming back up now.
Keselowski jumps right back up the chart. He's going to move on to round 2. Third for Brad Keselowski, 46.82. So the fast 5 right now, 2 Chevys, Keselowski's Ford, and 2 Toyotas.
Well, we got a battle on our hands. Hendrick Motorsports and their Chevrolets against the JGR and Furniture Road Toyotas. And now look at the Penske Fords coming into the mix.
That's 2/10 slower than he ran yesterday, Keselowski. So I think the wind's picked up and slowed him down a little bit.
So that bumps Ricky Stenhouse out of the top dozen. It moves Ty Dillon onto the bubble with 2 cars to go. Harvick and Dillon at risk. Eric Almirola driving for Richard Petty Motorsports and crew chief Drew Blickensderfer. Winner here in July of 2014. This will be his 7th 500. And that's the Kings number 43 that's rolled into victory lane here 7 times.
Yeah, that always blows my mind. It's a hard race to win, man. Only won it 1 time. Richard Petty won it 7
times.
Almirola 24th. That's got to be a disappointment. 47-12. And that will lock in Kevin Harvick.
46.72 yesterday. So that's a huge drop off.
We saw heard some drivers talk about launching off pit road. Here's Joey Logano. I mean, it looked like that was planned to him. Usually you want to not spin the tires, but boy, he lit them up leaving pit road.
You want to get some heat in those tires.
Yeah.
Like a burnout.
Logano fresh from victory lane in the clash earlier today with crew chief Todd Gordon for Team Penske, the 2015 Daytona 500 winner.
This is a confident driver right here, guys. I think he and Todd Gordon, I think they can do anything. I think they win every race.
So Ty Dillon trying to hold on to the final transfer spot into the dozen that will run for the pole.
Boy, look at this. The 22 is definitely off the pace more than I anticipated. Doesn't look like he's going to transfer through to round 2.
Boy, it doesn't. That's all.
17th, 46.92.
Wow.
For Joey Logano. And Ty Dillon is safe. Chase Elliott quickest. Dale Earnhardt Jr. second. There's a happy young man, the younger of the Dillon brothers.
I'm glad for him and for Booty.
With crew chief Booty Barker to the final round of 12, and we'll see who wins the pole for the 500. Robert Booty Barker is the crew chief for Ty Dillon, getting congratulations there as they move on to round number 2, the final round by 5/1000ths of a second over Ricky Stenhouse. So in inverse order, this is the order they will run. Ty Dillon, Kevin Harvick, Casey Kane. There are 5 Chevrolets, 4 Toyotas, and 3 Fords in the final round. Vince,
In his debut in the 13-car, Ty Dillon advances to round 2 at the Daytona 500 qualifying. Are you surprised with the performance, and what do you have left?
I'm not surprised by these guys. They're a hard-working group at Germain Racing, and it was nice for us to raise our flag, make sure everybody knows we're here for this Rookie of the Year battle, and all year, really. So it's a good start to our year, a nice little shot in the arm. And our Geico Chevy, every time we've put it on the track, it's gotten faster. It's yet to slow down, so maybe we have a little bit more in the second round, but it's a nice start to the year and qualifying. It means a lot to all the guys back at the shop that put in so much work, and ECR Engines was great. So cool deal to make to the next round. It kind of surprised all of us a little bit, but we still got one more, so we can get better.
Well done. Keep digging. Let's go to Jamie.
Clint Boyer was 7th fastest, and Kyle Busch came over and said, man, you broke up the Toyotas. They're sitting right in the middle as they're talking about things. And Clint, when it just came to an end, you said, I get to go to the second round. How much fun are you having here?
It's good. It's fun to have a team, dedicated like this. Boog and all these guys, they mean business, man. He's been set on kill since he got here. To be honest with you, I was thinking that it was going to be a little...
That would be Kyle Busch.
You got plenty of audio now. Can you hear everything? But I'm serious. That dedication and coming down here and being prepared, to go to battle and having a fast, hot rod and working in practice to keep getting better and better and fine-tuning it. To be honest with you, I thought we was going to be a little bit better than that, but they're so close. Look at the times. I don't know that I've ever been down here and remember it being that close, especially between these few cars. It seemed like it was always a car or two or a group that would separate themselves. Going out here, your oils, your fluids are going to be hotter, which helps them, but your brakes and stuff like that are obviously not pushed back, so that'll hurt some. So it's going to see, who can prevail here and keep going, and who can maintain and who will fall off.
Have a good time.
From fastest to 12th, less than 7/100ths of a second. Clint Boyer has plenty to say, and all America wants to hear it.
Glad you're watching NASCAR on Fox, and the 12 that are advancing to the second round here at the front row qualifying for next Sunday's Daytona 500. Chase Elliott and Michael Waltrip is with me. Chris Myers here, and Elliott's trying to become the first back-to-back Daytona 500 pole sitter since Ken Schrader won 3 straight in the late 80s, and this is the rest of the field the way it looks at the moment.
Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse, a really fast car yesterday, back in the 13th spot. Kurt Busch in 22nd. So there's going to be some great stories when this qualifying session is over, how these guys will line up for the duels next Thursday.
And we saw you in the 15 car, the Aaron's Toyota, and still in your fire suit as you get ready to observe along with all of us. Describe the conditions and what it was like out there. We heard you talking about having some speed, and obviously if you don't, you're at a disadvantage here gliding around by yourself. It's so different next Sunday when everybody's out there at the same time.
Yeah, but what I love is the character this racetrack is getting. There's bumps. You see the scrapes, the sparks flying out from underneath the cars. It's because there's humps and bumps out there. It's going to make drafting challenging. We saw that earlier with Jimmy Johnson spinning off the track. And the wind, it really does have a tendency to move the cars around. Even when you're by yourself, you can feel the winds pushing on your car a bit. So I love what we talked about earlier, Chris. We said this was definitely going to be Ford versus Toyota for the pole. There's 2 Chevys first and second so far. We were all over that one, weren't we?
That's right. And I was listening to Jeff and Darrell, the unpredictability based on what we've seen. And along those lines, just because you were fast in the first round, that's not a guarantee you're going to be fast in this second round.
A year ago, Chase Elliott was 3rd after the first round. He got the pole. He picked up nearly 0.2 of a second. And when you talk about the first 10 cars separated by less than a tenth, those bumps, the wind, all those things can make a difference. And plus, what Darrell and the guys upstairs said, the fluids in the cars that went late were cooler. And so that's a bit of a disadvantage. Now the cars that went late will have warmer fluids, and they'll have that engine cool down, could turn into advantage. I think as close as things are, we're going to see the order jumbled up quite a bit in the second round.
All right, let's check in with Jamie Little. She's standing by with Denny Hamlin.
Well, anytime you come to Daytona, this guy's always a favorite for the pole, for a win, whatever it may be. The clash was exciting earlier, but you moved on now to qualifying. What are you going over with your crew chief during this 10-minute break that maybe could help you find a little bit more?
Looking at any data that I can from practice to figure out, I feel like we've done all the homework we could do, but anything else that we could learn to just squeeze 100th or 2 out of it is what you're trying to do at this point. Amazed that the field is that close. Didn't think that an 80 would be the best time, but now that
we were just hoping to make the final round, and now that we're this close, it's like, how can we get a 100th or 2 more?
He'll get one more shot at it, Chris.
All right, thank you. And those who, Brendan Gaughan, obviously from Las Vegas, qualified his second Daytona, and Elliott Sadler in 2002. He finished second to Ward Burton in the Daytona 500 as he qualifies for his 14th trip. We're going to set the front row. Round 2 coming up live here from Daytona. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear. Everything we learn making tires for the grueling demands of NASCAR inspires what we roll into yours. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Back at the Hollywood Hotel getting ready for round 2. You got Dale Earnhardt Jr., Brad Keselowski in the mix to see who are the 2 on the front row. Of course, Thursday, the dual races will set the complete field. So let's go back upstairs to Darrell, Jeff, and Mike.
Chris, incredibly, a 46.80. Made it. A 46.87 did not. Now, the last 9 drivers to run were the 9 fastest in practice, but only 2 of them advanced.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think the wind possibly picked up. Looked like the flags were standing out a little straighter. The other thing is the fluids in the car. I can't tell you, Jeff knows this, and we saw it in practice. The first time you go out, you run a decent lap. The second time you go out, you always pick up. So I think those guys at the back of the field, their fluids were cooler, their hubs, their brakes, their everything about it was just a little wee bit cooler. Okay. So this will, and the cars are all inspected the same. They all go through there, they come out online, they're the same. So I think conditions is what made the difference.
Now, we've had 14 different drivers win the pole in the last 14 years. That doesn't mean 14 different cars or crew chiefs, though.
Yeah, there's a very good chance that this could be, if Chase Elliott wins this pole, this could be 3 years in a row for the 24 team at Hendrick Motorsports and Alan Gustafson, which he puts a tremendous amount of detail and effort with his team, the engineers and aerodynamicists and engine builders, to come down here. He's a local guy from Ormond Beach, Florida. This means a lot to those guys to come down here and lead this field to green for the Daytona 500.
Well, the last crew chief to win 3 straight poles here, Bill Elliott's brother, Ernie.
Wow.
So,
that's rare territory. That's in my era.
Ryan Newman would love to add a Daytona 500 pole to his resume to go along with that win, but barring a combo money cloud and a hurricane, can your Chevrolet go from 9th to 1st?
Well, we added 8.5 ounces of Coke, so hopefully that makes a difference too. But you know, really, it's the mercy of what you have and somebody making a little mistake here and there. And I don't know that we could pick up 8 spots or a 10th.5 or whatever it was, but we're going to try with the Caterpillar Chevrolet, no less.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Matt.
Half a
Ryan
tenth.
takes a swig.
Tell Ryan it's
is that swig worth half a tenth? I'm not sure.
Half a tenth. That's all you need, brother.
Larry Mack?
Yeah, Mike, I noticed a lot of cars bottoming out, and your biggest culprit in running fast is that rear spoiler on the back of that car. Anything you can do to get that rear spoiler out of the air helps the speed. NASCAR mandates the rate of the rear spring, and they issue the rear shocks. So one thing I noticed that may have been causing the bottoming out, remember the tires is just a spring, and they have a spring rate. They were really lowering the air pressure in those rear tires, and I think that maybe hurt some cars. I saw Kyle Larson, who really bottomed out bad.
Yeah, and you can see in the left rear tire a little bit of wrinkling when that air pressure's down and that car's being pushed down the back. Now, just then, I noticed the 13 car. I don't know, were they allowed to adjust air pressures for this round 2? I did not see as much of that buckling in the sidewall as we saw this 13 car go by.
Well, we saw Joey Logano do a burnout. You know, I don't know if he was trying to build pressure or trying to build heat, but it didn't help him that much.
You would think that you wouldn't want to build heat. You'd think that that would help get the car down even more.
So Ty Dillon is the first of these 12 drivers on the clock, the fastest of whom will win the pole for the Daytona 500. And of these 12, we only have 3 chances at a repeat pole winner. Chase Elliott, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Martin Truex.
But you see what Ty did when he left the pit. I think leaving the pits is critical. You got to get up to speed, and he tore out of the pits, got up next to that wall, and rode the wall coming around there to get the green.
Especially with that headwind, I think, you know, getting the maximum amount of RPM and momentum is really important now.
He was the 21st driver on the clock in round 1, 47.009. That's about 13 hundredths slower than his first round speed.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of is if the water temp got a little bit hot on that second half, or the final half of that lap there, that can definitely cause you some speed. I would think everything else, having oil and other temps up, would only help you. as we're seeing right here with Kevin Harvick, he's in the green.
He was the 23rd driver to take time. Chase Elliott, who is fastest, was the 22nd of 42 drivers on the clock.
Yeah. I know these guys, Kevin and Rodney Childers, his crew chief, I know they came down here with high expectations, but I think they've exceeded expectations myself. To jump from the Chevrolet and all the support they got from Hendrick Motorsports over to this team, over to these Ford cars built from in-house themselves, that's a pretty big change.
Well, he's exceeding expectations right now. This is going to be a pretty good lap, I believe.
I believe you're right.
Harvick is fastest, 46.829.
Get back in the 8s.
It's quite possible this could come down to thousandths of a second.
So that's a pickup of 4 100ths for Harvick.
Yeah.
Casey Kane in a Hendrick Chevrolet, 10th fastest in round 1. Where he was the 36th of 42 drivers on the clock.
See a little sparking coming out of the right side of his car. Nothing serious.
Yeah, we're just, we're not, he's kind of pulling it back now. He lost a little bit of speed going into turn 1, but now he's gaining it back down the back straightaway. Now going back, losing just a little bit. I mean, it's really close, but boy, that's really falling off there.
Yeah, I think the car looks tight or something. It seems like it's moving up off the bottom a little bit.
And that's the key stat right there, is that differential between this lap and his first lap. Kane is second, 46.853.
He did pick up a tiny bit, but just not as much as Kevin Harvick did.
Yeah, you're going to have to run in the 80s. Probably an 80.
I think you're going to have to run in the high 70s.
I think an 80 will do it.
And here's the Rocket, Ryan Newman from South Bend, Indiana. Going to run his 16th Daytona 500 on Sunday, the 2008 winner.
Jeff, we broke out our Hawkeye system, and you can adjust air pressures between round 1 and round 2. So I would have to believe that they let that air pressure back down. I just don't think there's no way, even with the cool down machines, you can get that engine as ice cold as when you left that garage area for first round.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they may have adjusted the air pressure based on how much the car was bottoming out. If it was bottoming out too much, maybe they decided to add a little bit of air pressure.
Driving a Chevrolet for newly minted NASCAR Hall of Famer Richard Childress. Newman is third, 46.87. That's a drop off of a little less than 2 100ths from round 1.
I know you guys, I don't know how you feel, but I like this kind of qualifying. I call it rapid fire. As soon as one goes by, you send another. One goes by, you send another. You got a car on the track all the time, and it goes by pretty quick.
Well, and I also like the way that they line the cars up. It's based on speed from practice, so it's usually slowest to fastest, not always, and then you get to see how people back up their times in qualifying versus in practice, and then we're going to do that again. We reset it where it's slowest to fastest.
Yep. Kyle Busch, like most drivers, taking the high line in turn 1 and 2 on his get up to speed lap.
And the wider you can make that corner, the longer you can make this get up lap, the more speed you should have when you get to the start finish line to start your lap.
Yeah, drop that thing down. You see him come off turn 4 here. He'll drop it down when he gets his start finish line, and then the yellow line becomes your best friend.
Yeah, then it's exact opposite, as Michael Waltrip pointed out earlier. Then it's all about making the shortest line around this racetrack as possible.
And see, that's where people say, well, a driver can't make much difference. I totally disagree. When we're this close on qualifying, the times are this close, you run a little higher here, a little low there, you do a few things in the car, you can knock a few hundredths out of it and cost yourself a pole.
The one area that I thought you could maybe have a difference is if you put a little bit too much wheel into it on the exit of the corner as you get to that straightaway. Your goal is to try to unwind the wheel as fast as possible because the car is going to go faster in a straight line.
Look, but he is riding that yellow line. I mean, he took the green, he went right on that yellow line, Kyle Busch in the 18 car, and he's staying on that yellow line all the way around the corner. Now look, all the way right next to it. I just think shortest distance got to make a little difference.
Fourth for Kyle Busch, 46.93, and he falls off about 7 8/100ths from the first round.
Had an issue. I'll tell you about it.
Had had issues, is what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I'm wondering if, again, if maybe the engine got a little bit hot.
Clint Boyer. He'll make his 12th Daytona 500. Has 397 career starts in what's now the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series with 2 poles and 8 victories.
My favorite thing he ever told me was last year when I asked him, I said, man, what's the problem? He said, my car hates me. This year, I think he's found a car and a crew chief that like him. He's getting good results.
We saw Boyer in the green here, so he's obviously picking up a little bit.
You see a little wrinkle in his left rear tire. Car looks pretty good. It's nice and low. He's holding a nice steady wheel. You see those hands not moving any.
Top of the chart.
Wow,
46.
73.
That's
73.
That's a lap, baby.
Larry, I got a question for you. Now that they've run one run and they put the tape on the grill, as everything's heated up, can they adjust tape for round 2 and maybe put too much tape or not enough tape?
They can adjust it. You can add, you can take away. We even saw them taking it all off just long enough to try to get air in there to cool it, and then they add it back. So you can add or take away between the rounds.
So it's a real guessing game for these crew chiefs on how much to add and whether you're going to overheat the engine or whether you're going to not put enough on there and get the best aerodynamic drag out of it.
But you know that tape is your best friend.
Oh, yeah.
That is you think about round 1, an 80, 46.80 was Chase Elliott, fastest car. That's a 46.73, guys. That's
Clint Boyer has laid down the gauntlet. That is by far the fastest lap turn today.
And you could hear a little bit of disappointment in his voice when we spoke to him. And I think now he's going to get a little bit more excited because this is where he thought he was going to be.
Denny Hamlin in a Joe Gibbs Toyota second. 46.82 for Hamlin. He picks up 2 100ths, but falls short of Boyer.
See, everybody's in the 80s. That's what they were the first round. Here we are. Most of the cars in the 80s the second round, except that 14 car.
Chase Elliott getting ready. Matt Kenseth, 2-time Daytona 500 winner on the racetrack.
And see, another thing about the driver, and you know this, Joe. A driver, there's places on this track where you can use the banking and use the track to your advantage. And if you're a pretty savvy driver and you know when to turn that thing down and you know when to be down on that yellow line and you know there's a little speed here and a little speed there, that's experience.
And I would add to that is playing with the wind. You know, if you know there's a headwind or a crosswind coming, there's a certain amount of steering wheel that you can put into it that can take advantage or try to give yourself an advantage based on how that, and use that wind to your advantage maybe behind you.
Point being, that guy's not just sitting in there holding the steering wheel.
No.
He's thinking his whole lap.
5 cars to go. Clint Boyer's Ford on top. Here comes Matt Kenseth's Toyota to the stripe. 5th, 46.87. Right neatly split between his teammates Hamlin and Busch, who had an 82 and a 93.
So we just saw Clint Boyer pick up a little more than 1/10 of a second from his round 1 speed to his second round. Last year, I believe that Chase Elliott picked up almost 2/10 of a second. So that's going to be the difference maker right there. If they can find that kind of speed in round 2, it's going to be hard to beat that 24 car or possibly the 88.
Listen.
Yeah, it's just skipping.
I think that's perfect. I think that's what you want.
Yeah.
Just brushing the asphalt just a bit. The skirts on Martin Truex's car. He's the 2009 pole sitter for the 500. 4 drivers to go. Boyer and Hamlin the front row right now. Furniture Row Racing, they've had inspection issues here at Daytona this weekend. That's behind them. Here's Truex trying to run for the pole. Second, 46.80. He picks up 2.5 hundredths of a second, but he is shy of Clint Boyer.
I'll tell you, I thought an 80 would win the pole because I didn't think anybody could pick up as much as Boyer did.
And then there were 3. Brad Keselowski's car owner, Roger Penske, has never won the pole for the 500. He's won almost everything there is to win in motorsports. Hasn't won this pole. He's won the race with Ryan Newman. But here's Keselowski.
He really came to the green good because he was tracking well going into one.
He's coming off
Lost
turn
a little
2.
bit. Now it's coming
but
back.
He's coming back and in the green now, and it's looking pretty good here, guys. He got off turn 2 with a lot of speed, better than most.
Now remember, we saw him just barely coasting onto pit road after his first run. Obviously not using the brake pedals, trying to keep all the friction out of those brake rotors.
He's coming back. Look at this time. And now he's starting to pick up a little tailwind, and that's going to push him to the start-finish line. This is a good-looking lap.
Top of the chart for Keselowski, 46.70.
Wow. There, that's P1 right now.
192.69 miles per hour. And right now, it's an all-Ford front row.
Well,
Two
we got
cars to go.
We got the 2 Hendrick cars here to see if they can do anything about it. Got Dale Jr. and Chase coming up, and they could pick up a little bit and be right there.
Oh, look at this. Already picked up quite a bit.
That's not a little bit. That's a lot. Holy smoly.
Wow.
And gaining. Boy, I tell you, he's got something in the bank right here. Look at that. Coming down the back, not losing much time into the headwind. I think the wind has died a little bit. 8,400, that's a lot of RPM. Got her nose off here, turn 4, looking to the line. Very, very impressive lap.
I mean, this is to me what you call managing pressures, air, tape, friction, everything.
To the top. To the. Ta-da.
Okay. Timing and scoring hasn't quite picked it up yet.
Ta-da.
Hasn't come up yet. I got a 66, so that puts you P1.
I think he's right on.
No,
Here on the pylon, it's at the Speedway, they're showing him P1.
I agree.
And electronic scoring from NASCAR has Earnhardt 46.665, 192.864 miles per hour. That's 3.5 hundredths better than Brad Keselowski.
I'd say Greg Ives' stopwatch is pretty good.
I would too. He had a 66.
Very good. And then there was one.
Well, you know, Dale Jr. is going to be on the front row.
Last year's pole sitter, Chase Elliott, trying to win his 2nd in a row, which would be the 3rd in a row for Team 24, 3rd in a row for crew chief Alan Gustafson. And those 3 poles, if he makes it, 1 for Jeff Gordon, 2 for Chase Elliott.
Can he do it?
I think he can. I think our timing and scoring wants a bit of a little drama. I know that. He did it.
He did it. An all Hendrick front row.
46.663 by 2 1/1000ths of a second. Chase Elliott is the pole sitter for the 500.
Unbelievable.
That is incredible.
Well, you know, I said that they picked up about 2/10. They've got this thing down pretty good because that's about what they picked up again here to get this pole in the front row for Hendrick Motorsports. Wow, that's a great moment for them.
Oh, yeah, and for Rick, I mean, Rick was down here early, and, I don't think he had a whole lot to brag about after the clash, but he got a lot to brag about right now. Got the front row covered.
3rd pole in a row for Team 24 and crew chief Alan Gustafson, tying Ernie Elliott for that record. Here's Vince.
Alan, do you know the last crew chief to win 3 poles in a row at the Daytona 500?
I do not. I didn't realize that I had 2 in a row, to be honest with you, before I heard it on the radio today. So
it's Chase's uncle, Ernie Elliott.
Well, that's pretty good company. That's pretty awesome. So yeah, amazing. I didn't think we had a shot at it, to be honest with you. Yesterday we just didn't have a lot of pace and struggled for speed. But these Napa guys worked really hard. We went through a lot of stuff, a lot of data, and worked on the car, and they made it happen. So really proud of them.
You know the history of this sport. What's it mean to you, local guy from Florida, to be on the pole for the Daytona 500 again?
Well, this place is, obviously very special. I grew up, 5 miles from here, and this is the first place I ever saw racing, and can remember coming here when I was 5 years old. It's a bittersweet thing because we've got a lot of great qualifying performances and pretty abysmal race finishes. So I really want to win a race here. That would be huge. That'd be huge. It'd be so much for me and this team. But I think we've got a good Napa Chevy. It's got some speed. Thanks to everybody at HMS. They worked really hard in the off season to get the speed, and we'll go see what happens.
Happy for you. Congratulations. Mike.
Here's your front row for the Daytona 500 Hendrick Chevrolet teammates, Chase Elliott and Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is on the front row for the 500 for his 4th time. Jamie?
By that performance, you never would have known. It's been 7 months since this guy has been out of a race car. How good does that feel, Junior?
It feels good. I think the guys are a little disappointed. They really want to get the pole. I'm disappointed too, but absolutely thrilled to have an all Hendrick front row. And we'll work on the balance, practice a lot this week, and see if we can't get our car, make sure it's a good handling car for the race. But this is a good way to start the week.
All right, Matt's with our pole sitter.
And as we mentioned, it's the 3rd year in a row, the 24 on the point for you, back-to-back, and you rolled up that traditional Elliott smile. This is big for you.
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm just happy for our Napa team, and great to have Napa colors on board this weekend. And big thanks to the Hendrick Engine Shop and Chevrolet. Everybody at Hendrick Motorsports has done a lot of work this offseason, and you know, this team definitely has a knack for these plate tracks, as they showed with Jeff, and then last year with here in Talladega. But that stuff doesn't just happen by staying the same. You know, as everybody knows, everybody's always trying to get better and make their cars better and faster, and the engine shop's always finding new things. So I think that's just kind of a you know, proof that they're improving with everybody else and taking that next step, which is really, really impressive. So happy to be a part of it, and hopefully we can run good next Sunday.
You weren't able to capitalize on that starting spot last year. How have you matured as a restrictor plate driver to where you can score your first 500 on Sunday?
Well, we finished our first Cup race at Daytona today, which was good. We didn't win the race, obviously, but we finished. And for me, unfortunately, we tore up a lot of stuff here last year. So I hope we can just try to get to the end of the 500 next week. Obviously, got to get through the duels first, but just making it to the end and having yourself in position. Obviously, we'd love to have a shot to win this thing. So it'd be great, and I think we have a car that can do it. So we'll find out.
Thanks, Chase. Mike.
It's the 5th time in 500 history that Hendrick Motorsports has owned both sides of the front row, as Alan Gustafson congratulates his team. Hendrick Motorsports earns both sides of the front row for next Sunday's Daytona 500. Well, Jeff, is this bigger for Chase Elliott and Team 24 or for the return of Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
Boy, that's a good argument, but I got to say, we got an Earnhardt and an Elliott on the front row for the Daytona 500. So much pride on the line and hard work that goes into making this happen. And I know how proud Rick Hendrick is of this group to be on the front row for the Daytona 500 as well.
The front of this grid looks like Noah's Ark. NASCAR searches for parity. 2 Chevys, 2 Fords, 2 Toyotas, just like that.
I like that. The room of doom seems to be the great equalizer. when I'm telling you, when you go through there and you put the cars out here, it makes a huge difference.
We look forward to Thursday then, and the duel, Chris.
Well, front row bragging rights are great for a week, but I hate to spoil things. So we haven't had a pole sitter for the Daytona 500 finish even in the top 5 in the last 15 years. So it's all about the rest of the field as well. And Thursday in the duel races, you'll be part of that. We'll get a better gauge.
Well, think what we saw today. Chevrolet didn't lead a single lap in the clash, and they come back and sweep the front row. Now we're going to go to the duels. It's all about how the cars will handle in traffic. It's about strategy. When do you get those tires? We saw that play a part in the event today. So I think there's so many things that the teams are going to sort through. They learned a lot today, the way their cars drove in traffic. They're going to apply all that, and we're going to see a heck of a pair of races in the duels.
Interesting day. A 21-year-old on the pole again, a back-to-back for Chase Elliott Daytona 500, and a 26-year-old Joey Logano winning the clash that was rain delayed or postponed to earlier today. Tonight on Fox, The Simpsons, Family Guy, rounded out by Bob's Burgers. Don't forget, Can-Am dual races at Daytona Thursday on FS1. Mike will be a part of that, and we'll see Chase Elliott in there as well. And, of course, a week from Sunday right here on Fox, 1 o'clock Eastern, the pre-race show. Jeff Gordon sits down with Dale Earnhardt Jr. And then the 59th running of the Great American Race. For our entire crew, I'm Chris Myers. Thanks for being a part of NASCAR on Fox. Have a good President's Day.